Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Wayne Malou. As a reminder, we are now streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel, Monday to Friday, between 2 and 3 p.m. So to all the viewers, hello. Apparently, Alex is actually working the show today, but he's just in the chat. Truly, I wonder how that happened, because it's not easy to convince Alex to work. But for today, since it is Tuesday, I'm joined in the studio by the Fan Morning Show's Blake Murphy, who we have prepared something for.
Blake Murphy.
Tuesday!
Blake, hello.
What is that?
Well, so our lovely producer, Derek, shot me a message at, I think probably like, I don't know, sometime during the daytime, nothing too late. But it's like, look, you have Blake on every Tuesday. LeBron does, the Taco Tuesdays thing. Let's turn that into a thing. And
Sure.
I was like, let's do it. And then, he spliced it in with a little bit of your background.
Sure.
Are you Irish?
I mean, if you trace it back far enough, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I don't
fair
really
enough.
know, but yeah. This is great. You guys have drops like that. You've got this wonderful artwork from Drake Cereal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got I don't know, maybe it's a me thing, not a show thing, because Ailish has her drops on the Fan Morning Show too.
Wow.
I got nothing.
Well, just to take viewers behind the scenes, I promise we will talk about basketball, and we will have another special guest as well joining us on the line. But just taking people behind the show, after every episode, when we finish, a long day of work here between 2 and 3 p.m., me and Alex almost, just by instinct now, just naturally walk straight to our boss DT's office. And then, we make assorted demands. Mostly Alex makes assorted demands. I'm a team player. Alex is more, I don't know. I'm more DeMar. He's more Kyle, I guess.
Okay.
Vibe-wise. But, yeah, so maybe you got to incorporate some of that, like you can get what you want. You just got to go ask for it, apparently.
I've thought about asking Alex to manage me or represent me, like a little, like to wrestling brain it. He would be the guy who walks me to the ring. Now, he's not showing up for 6 to 10 a.m. when I show up to the Fan Morning Show.
Oh, you'd be surprised. Alex will make all sorts of appearances, including soon-to-be Sportsnet Tonight.
What?
Yeah, well, he's just
You got a new thing coming?
No, he's just going to host one show. He's been begging to do it, I mean. Anyway, that's coming in the new year, by the way.
Yeah, the more Alex, the better.
He wants to talk so badly about Kevin Gausman and other baseball players. Boucher.
I don't know how it works. I know baseball's not allowed to mention baseball players anymore. Have you seen that?
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. What's going on with that? I mean, like,
I don't really know, like this, like it's a lockout until it's not a lockout, but the petty move of we're not going to have any player faces or stories or anything like that on the website.
So what are they going to show then?
I don't know. There's
just
nothing.
Logos?
You go there right now and it's just like evergreen stories that are not about any current players.
Awesome. Yeah. Just
like
wow.
the second thing on the page is Gary Carter, the old Montreal Expo.
That's that. Wow. Listen, if the NBA ever went into a strike, I actually don't know what I'd do. Probably have to take like a 2-year vacation or something, while Adam Silver and whoever is coming in to take over the PA.
And then the Raptors can ineffectively tank in the shortened season.
The
last time I had season tickets.
Really?
The lockout shortened year, yeah.
Wow.
Because I moved to Vancouver after that.
How much were season tickets back then, actually? Because to remind
Not a
people, the
lot.
Raptors were winning like 20 games a year.
Not a lot. Like I had lower bowl. I split lower bowl season tickets. We had 3 seats that we split between 5 of us, and it worked out to like I think $100 a seat, like per game.
Oh yeah,
and that was lower
wow.
bowl, like
Yeah.
20 rows up.
Man,
So like you'd be lucky to get 300 level seats for that. I think now, right?
very lucky, very lucky.
Yeah, I took Baby Bro to the game on Friday.
Yeah, I saw that, man.
Yeah.
What's it like going to the game with Blake? I don't know, but someone who might know is Eric Kareen from The Athletic, your former Raptors Reasonablest podcast co-host. Now we have reunited you. Eric, what's going on?
This is emotional for me. I'm not going to lie. Good to be with you guys. Good to be with Blake. Hello, friend. I miss you. If we want to talk about the 2011-12 lockout shortened year, I'm all for it.
Sorry, who is this, Will?
Oh, damn.
Hi, Eric.
It's cold.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Cold world, homie.
Oh, my
Bundle
God.
up.
Damn, this guy's quoting Hassan Whiteside.
Yeah. Typo free, though.
Speaking of Hassan Whiteside's former team, the Sacramento Kings,
Wow.
what a transition here. So
Seamless.
the Raptors win last night, 124-101 at Scotiabank to finish their homestand 4-3. Really should have been 6-1 or at least 5-2. The Memphis loss was regrettable. Obviously, no Ja. And then the OKC game where they lost on the failed buzzer beater, also just regrettable. Really should be 6-1 and higher in the standings. Right now, they're 13-14 on the season. They're a game and a half back of sixth place Philadelphia. A lot of teams are very bunched up. The Raptors are going to play the Nets tonight. 4 Nets, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Bembry, Javon Carter, and James Johnson are in health and safety protocols, and they're out. KD is questionable. Actually, before we recap last night's game, because I really wanted to go into sort of what worked, especially off the bench with some of you guys. Eric, I wanted your thoughts on just the broadcast experience. Obviously, this is one of those rare times where Matt and Jack were not available. They were held out due to contact with someone who tested positive, although they have both confirmed to be negative. You had Paul Jones and Leo Routins on the broadcast, Nikki Reyes and Kia Nurse doing the analysis chair. Eric, what were your thoughts on the makeshift broadcast last night?
Well, Will, I'm really glad you asked because I was at the game and watching it live.
That's right. Wow. Okay, Blake, I'm going to have to ask you then.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, obviously it's a very different voice. We've had Devlin for pretty much every game for decades now. Not to age the poor guy, but like the Matt and Jack dynamic is something we've come to get really used to, and Matt's kind of the voice of the Raptors. So to hear Paul Jones and Leo step in, I mean, Leo's obviously a familiar voice, but that's a very different chemistry and a very different back and forth. Paul obviously has a ton of experience on the radio side, but I thought it was good. I don't think those guys got a lot of notice that's what was getting shaken up. And then on the analyst side, Kia's always great. So
yeah, always.
It's the more Kia, however, I mean, this isn't how you want it, but the more Kia we get on the broadcast, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, especially for Paul, like, obviously he does, like, you know, most of the games and stuff like that. But it was actually super cool because I realized this when I was watching the games back online. And so some of the clips were from the Kings, some of the clips were from the Raptors. It was obviously Paul Jones on the Raptors broadcast, and then it was a brother on the Kings broadcast. And that is just really cool I'm not sure that's ever happened in NBA history, to be honest.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Head-to-head brother commentators?
Yeah. Anyway, so that was super cool. I thought, I mean, it was great to hear from Leo again. And Eric, yeah, you missed out. That's what I'm telling you. You got to go back and watch the game just for the broadcast.
Well, I got Eric Smith and Amy Audibert on Sportsnet tonight. See that? I'm
good plug.
I'm doing your work. I'm doing your work for you, Will.
I mean, that's I appreciate that. So let's talk about the game last night, actually. So I actually ended up giving my 3 stars in the reaction podcast to 3 bench players, which I think. I mean, look, the starters also played well, but they always get shouted out. So I gave my 3 stars to Delano Benton, who was number 1, Malachi Flynn, number 2, and Yuta Watanabe, number 3. Let's work backwards and start with Yuta. Okay, Eric, I know you saw Yuta play at least. Yuta, you know, he had his first career double-double. What did you make from his performance last night?
I mean, once they got to the fourth quarter, like him taking that pull-up 2 in transition, like, I just can't imagine him taking that shot at any other point of his NBA career. It you know, last year, obviously, it took a good portion of the season and a few injuries to get him to take the open shots. So for him to dribble the ball down the court and take that shot, I mean, it was a laugher of a game, obviously. But that just, and as he said after the game, that just lets you know where his confidence level is. Whether, you know, in general, whether his shots have fallen or not this year, like he just is such a good fit for the system, has such a high IQ within the system, and is such like an active player that I've heard Blake mention this a few times before. Like even when this team is fully healthy, I think there's a role for Yuta Watanabe here. And last night was like the maximal version of that, but you know, it didn't do a lot to dissuade me or like to make me think he was better or worse than he was. It's just good to see him at a good place right now.
Eric, is Nico okay?
She's just saying hi.
Oh, all right. Yeah, but I think you're right in terms of Yuta's confidence. the not even just confidence, just like the assuredness of that aggression that the team's been asking for more and more from him. And you look at, obviously you can go per 36, you can go per 100, whatever. The volume is up for Utah over last year, and I think that that's an important indicator. However, the shots are dropping. Like the Raptors want him to be more aggressive attacking the rim, more aggressive knocking down threes, more aggressive looking for his own thing because, yeah, he's a really unselfish player. But that stuff comes a lot easier when you're also a scoring threat. So I'm much more encouraged by the volume that he showed, 11 field goal attempts per 36, than worrying about, hey, he's only shooting 39% overall and 37% on threes. Like, I think it's a really, really good indicator of where he's at and where his comfort level is, that he's taking shots like that and taking shots at volume in general. And I think it's it leads to a great moment post game where, hey, he's got 12 points, 10 rebounds, and he gets asked about his first double-double, and he's like, yeah, I am proud of myself. And I think that kind of, openness is the openness element is great. And then also just that kind of pat yourself on the back, because he has put a lot of work in finding that level of aggression and finding what his role in the NBA is going to be. Anyway, in terms of the volume and the pull-up there, almost 500 players have played at least 1,000 minutes over the active players have played over 1,000 minutes, and Utah is in the bottom 50 for usage rate. So, not a super high usage guy. And as that confidence grows and that number ticks upward, I think that's only going to be a good indicator of where he's at as an NBA player.
I think what's been cool too is that we're seeing like some secondary creation for him, not like from him, not a ton or anything, but you think to the ball being swung to him in the corner and he just attacked a closeout and fed it to Scotty Barnes for a dunk there in the second quarter. Like that's, I don't remember, last year, Nick Nurse said he was getting stuck in the middle a lot. Like he would make those reads, but then he would attack the closeout. But when he got close to the paint, he would sort of get stuck. And now the decision making is a lot more fluid. He's just a lot more decisive. It's really good to see.
So I mentioned that low usage stat. I got a little trivia for you and Will. So again, almost 500 players with active players with 1,000 minutes or more. And active here per Basketball Reference means they played as recently as last season. So maybe they haven't played any games this year. 2 of the players in the bottom 10 have Raptors connections. Do you know who they are?
Is it Pat McCaw?
Pat McCaw is 8th last.
Okay.
Very good. Has the other one played this year?
Yes. The hasn't played this year thing was the McCaw hint, because I didn't want to cheat you guys there.
Yeah.
The other one has played for the Raptors this year.
What?
Oh, wow.
Well,
What's the minute threshold?
1,000 total minutes. Will, you gave him a shout out on the pod last night with his nickname.
What?
Ailish was really excited about it.
Bonga.
Yeah.
Bonga?
Yeah, Bing
Right.
Bonga. 11% usage rate. Him tied with Pat McCaw.
That sounds high for him. Anyway.
Anyway, that's all to say. The Raptors love a low usage defense first guy.
Yeah, definitely. The front office has definitely looked for those kind of pieces. By the way, Utah, one thing that he keeps talking about is, he said last night, he's very proud of himself. But then right afterwards, he said, I was gassed at the end, but that's how I should be. Every time I get on the court, I work hard, bring energy. So after every game, I should be gassed, which is definitely the right approach. Absolutely. When you watch him play, even just the small cuts that he makes, the closeouts that he makes, everything is max intensity. Having said that, though, I feel like Nick has also said at times, I can't play Utah that many minutes because he's working himself so hard. Does Utah need to pace himself just a little bit? Not saying that he does. I don't want him to play hard. I want every Raptor to play hard. But if he's topping out at like 20 minutes because he's playing so hard, would it not make more sense for him to, ease in a little bit more?
Am
I nitpicking here? Probably.
I mean,
played
26. Yeah, sorry, he played 26 last night, and he played 29 against Memphis. Like, he's fine. Ideally, he's probably not playing 30 minutes in your rotation anyway. I really like him as a player, but as a couple pieces come back, you're probably not being like, hey, we got to find a way to make sure Utah gets his 30 minutes in and is totally fresh. I think the kind of 18 that he's settled in around in the other games since he's been back is a more natural spot. And then you're talking about like 3 6-minute runs. Right, and I think you can work with that.
Okay.
I think it's the hard play that, it contributes so much to him being productive too. If you,
right,
Like, do you really want to mess with his mindset a bit and say, well, don't crash the glass as much, or don't provide. I mean, they would never say don't provide an extra layer of help, but you get my drift. If
Mhm.
you're saying we need you right now for like 32 minutes instead of 22 minutes, you're risking making the minutes less effective.
Fair enough.
Right. It's kind of like fouling your own guy out with 3 or 4 fouls. What are you saving him for? You're not going to be in the game as close. So if you get less of Utah, I think Utah at 80% is maybe not a guy you want playing 30 minutes. So
Fair enough.
I'd
Fair
take
enough.
20 minutes of 100% Utah.
Well, look,
Have you
I'm just-
gotten your
what?
ramen with him yet?
Trust me, if I did, you guys, everybody would know. I would post about this for days, nonstop.
Unbelievable.
So it's still yet to happen. But Utah, listen, the open invite is here. Obviously, you're getting called out once again on this program, and you already said yes.
So Alex still hasn't revealed to you that the reason I do every Tuesday show is because him and Utah have a standing 2 to 3 Tuesday ramen hang.
honestly, I would not be surprised, and I would almost respect Alex for that. All right, moving on. Malachi Flynn. So last night, he doesn't even get into the game in the first half, and the Raptors bench really broke things open. That was Delano running the show. But Delano goes home at halftime. Malachi is in for a 14-minute stretch there to close the game. And, wow, what a performance from Malachi. Was hitting crossovers and pull-up jumpers and getting to the rim and even a catch-and-shoot three. Like, pretty much everything the Raptors ever wanted to get from him. And Eric, is this kind of the standard for what the Raptors want from Malachi in terms of his role? Because it seems like they want him to come in and just impact games immediately and start to score in bunches and look for a shot.
Yeah, it's interesting because he is in that, just body wise, he's in that, traditional point guard role. And that usually comes with the idea of more distribution. And his strength coming into the league was his work as a handler in the pick and roll. And what we saw last night was a lot of, dancing in isolation. And we got some drives, but uh, the model that the Raptors are building, where they can have all these guys, bigger guys, whether it's Barnes, Siakam, maybe Anunoby, take the ball up in transition, or maybe even handle in the half court to get their better shooters off the ball. Yeah, like if it's not going to be the orchestrating the game part, you have to be able to get in with your offense. I don't think, like, it's one game against one of the worst defensive efforts. It wasn't only defensive, just like loose ball efforts. Like, the Kings were awful last night. So I don't want to say that was exactly what they want from him. I think they'd love to see him show a little more in terms of his ability to get others involved. But saying that he wasn't really in that role last night, that, as much as anything, Scotty Barnes was handling that in the second unit. So it was certainly on the right track, but I think there's still a little refinement to go for him to really find his niche with the team.
Yeah, I think, Will, you and I have talked about this a bunch. I think Eric and I talked about it a bunch last year. And it's, hey, sometimes you see these Malachi Flynn minutes and he looks really solid and he looks steady. And he looks like kind of what you want from a backup point guard is a safe pair of hands and a pick and roll operator and a guy who can keep his man in front of him a little bit. And that's not what Nick Nurse has wanted out of that role. He wants aggression. And last year it was, hey, we need you to be into the ball more on defense. We need you to, it's not the scheme to keep your man in front of you. It's to get up in his jersey and poke the ball free. And this year the talk, especially early on, has been offensively and like, hey, look at how Delano drives play and look at how he gets things moving in transition and gets the defense on their heels. Whereas Flynn is traditionally more of a kind of slow things down, set the table, play between the beats guy. So I think the task for Flynn, and he's obviously going to have another chance tonight against Brooklyn with Benton out. The challenge for Flynn from here is, how do you keep that level of aggression that we saw last night in games where you're not playing against the Kings end of bench guys? And I think that if I'm Malachi Flynn and if I'm the coaching staff talking to Malachi Flynn, you might have to accept a little something that's uncharacteristic to him, which is embracing risk a little bit and embracing mistakes, maybe if you make them, because I think right now his path to staying in the rotation is to be that same level of aggressive guy we saw last night at both ends of the floor and then rein it back in. I think that is his better path to minutes right now with what they want out of the second unit than, hey, coming in and being safe and looking for once in a while to press things and to take your shots. I think that's just, what you can debate whether that's what you want out of a point guard in general in a vacuum, especially a backup one. But that's clearly what they want the identity of the second unit to be.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like for Malachi, obviously the comp is always the Fred thing, and obviously Fred took one on his wing last year and stuff like that. And that's something that Fred does a really good job of. I would always say that Fred is like more aggressive than almost maybe he should be. Sometimes he will take like a tough shot. But, in order to establish your playmaking, especially now as a point guard, you kind of have to do that. And I think for Malachi, finding that balance has been difficult. But last night it was at least a good reminder that, he can hit a pull-up jumper. The thing does look really good. It will eventually drop. And last night he was dropping them. So we have 5 minutes here to quickly touch on Delano, Benton, and Chris Boucher. Delano got my first star, so we don't have to talk to him as much. But honestly, I was watching it back and just, wow, 8 baskets in a stretch of 11 for the Raptors bench, extending the lead from 3 to 15 points. And he was scoring or assisting on, 8 of 11 in the stretch there. He was just so good just running the show. And I feel like, Eric, it feels to me like he kind of just comes in and out a little bit. Some games he's like really impactful, and then some games he's almost invisible. What do you attribute that to? Is that just being young?
It's funny you say that because, like, my number one thought about him this year, first of all, like it's to be surprised at how much of an impact he's making. Like, even if it is inconsistent for the 46th, was it, Blake? 46th pick?
Yeah.
To be impactful at this level this early, like, that's a shock. But, like, every fourth or fifth game or so, I find myself saying, you know what? I'd really love to see Delano Banton with the 905 for an extended run. Give him 30 minutes a night as like the point guard. Let's give Malachi Flynn 12 to 14 minutes a night as a point guard, just so we know what we have on a baseline level with him. And with Banton, you get the chance to work on some skills. And then he does what he does last night. And again, the caveat about the opponent notwithstanding, and he is like he's turning semi-transition into full-out transition. He's making advanced level passes when he's forced to the baseline. I don't think it's realistic given his pedigree and given how, little, frankly, he's been in this role to expect him to be making an impact every night, which is why I keep going back to maybe let's get him down to the 905 so he can work on those things without fear of impacting, the Raptors. But if you're Nurse and you're the team, you're like, well, if we might get this every second game, every third game, that's hugely valuable. So that's sort of my overarching thought. And when he does it, you can see what a difference maker he is.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with Banton when he's clicking is that you see that identity of the second unit kind of coalesce. And it's, hey, we're going to use that length. And I mentioned with Malachi Flynn that the team doesn't really, obviously it's great to keep your man in front of you, but they want more of a Delano style defense where you're using that length to fight over a screen and poke a ball free instead of, playing more conservatively. And then offensively, yeah, the second that the ball gets in a Raptors hand, everyone is kind of sprinting the other direction. And that's, that's going to be sloppy at times, and that's going to be inconsistent with how much inexperience there is in that group. But Banton is such a good engine for it. But last night, the 6 assists in 9 minutes, like Eric, you mentioned going down to the G League. He hasn't looked like that as a playmaker in the G League. He's been fine to good in the G League, but he's also been primarily focused on the half-court scoring down there, putting up 26 points a game to 4 assists. So I thought this and the Washington game the other week are probably the best examples of what Banton looks like when everything's kind of falling into place for him. And hopefully this absence isn't a very long one, because I think, he wasn't very good against OKC or the Knicks, but that's 2 really, really good small minute bench games for him in a, week and change. So I think, yeah, I was with you and I am with you that 905 time will only help this guy in the long term and what he could be for the rotation by the end of the year or next year. But yeah, if he's giving you 6 assists off the bench 50% of the games, it's really hard to be like, well, go to Erie, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Damn. Well, you put it like that. That's tough. All right, we have run out of time for Chris, but just really quickly, one word answer. So the last 4 games, he scored 14, 11, 14, and 17 points. 3 of them came as starts. Uh, is this a product of him playing with the starters? Is that mostly a product of him playing with the starters, Eric?
Uh, yes, and it's just in general role certainty.
Okay. Blake?
I don't even think it's role certainty. I think it's role simplification. He plays a lot more of a
Right,
role
okay.
man and a transition, like gap filler and lane filler when he's playing with the starters, and he tries to take on a little bit less, I think. And the role simplicity is what's helping him thrive right now.
Yeah. And he's playing really well, so I wanted to give him that shout out. So I think that's a good spot for us to take a break. I'm your host, Will Lou, and you're listening to The Raptor Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. On the other side of the break, we'll have more of the Raptors' Reasonable List reunion. Wow, that's hard to say. All right, let's go to break. Welcome back to the Raptor Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Wayne Malou, and I'm joined by Blake Murphy and The Athletics' Eric Corrine. Eric, every single time we bring on guests in the media, we love to just quickly dive into your background a little bit. And yeah, I just wanted to ask you, man, because I actually genuinely don't know this myself. How and when did you get started in the business?
Well, it was pure nepotism.
It's good to know.
My
That's what I've
brother,
always suspected. Anyway.
yeah, my brother Mike, who is now a colleague of yours
Yes.
at Sportsnet as an editor, he's 5 years older than me, and he started as a co-op student at the Toronto Sun when he was 16, and he like quickly made a name for himself. And so I think when I applied for an editorial assistant job at the Canadian Press, it's not like he got me that job. He didn't even put in a good word for me, and he probably still wouldn't put in a good word for me.
Wow.
But just kidding. I love you, Mike. But I think my name stood out when I applied for that very low level position. So that definitely helped. And I worked there on the agate desk, which is, if people don't know, like if you can picture the back page of the sports section and the standings and the results, I sort of formatted that. And then I moved over to the National Post, and a few years later, when they were if you could believe it, expanding a newspaper sports section in 2006, as sort of somebody on the desk and somebody doing a bit of, on deadline writing, and eventually, long story short, the Raptors job opened up. I didn't get it the first time, and it opened up quickly again because my replacement left for, or not my replacement, my predecessor left for the Globe and Mail, and I got it the second time. And the rest is something less dramatic than history, I suppose.
Fair enough. I was going to say, how many people were covering the Raptors beat at that time? Like you mentioned, probably like 06, 07, that range.
Yeah, well, it was still like two people at the Sun. You had Doug Smith at the Star, of course, and always with a columnist as a second voice. Grange and Robert McLeod were at the Globe doing it. Uh, I don't have like a very clear memory of when Sportsnet and TSN started sending like digital reporters in addition to cameras, but that would have been the sort of overall, you know, the most, that was your general day, and then you had columnists from all the papers coming in, your Bruce Arthurs and your Steve Simmons, and anyway, it goes on from there. But yeah, it was only like 4 or 5 or 6 people who were absolute regulars for sure.
One of the most shocking things to me in my career, and I don't have a very standard path, but I did intern at a newspaper for like 6 weeks. Finding out the agate desk is a thing when like tables and table formatting was invented in like the 6th century, and newspapers still have someone like space, space, space,
Oh
3,
my God.
That's
space,
how they
space,
do it?
space, 2.
Oh my God.
It's wild.
Uh,
The existence of the agate desk was so bizarre to me.
Yeah, I can't tell you the night, the hours. I don't want to say wasted because I got to know a lot of good people and I got to see what like an editing desk looked like. But in terms of like the actual work, calling, waiting for the guy from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League to call me with the scores update so I can put them all into, proper formatting. Uh, I've seen some things. That's all I'll say.
Wow. Well, I also got to ask you, Eric, the standard question I ask every single person in the media who comes on. What's your advice to young people who want to take our jobs eventually?
um, could I give when Fred Van Vliet was asked last night what advice he'd give his 18-year-old self? It was just, I was right.
Mm.
No, I don't actually believe that. I think you gotta be open to everything, and you want to take as many opportunities to do as many different things. Even if your interest is very specific and narrow, to hit as many possible outlets or and to use your voice in as many different ways as possible, that's like the best thing you can do, in addition to obviously reading or listening to as many different people. And then after that, it's just like, this is broad, not very practical advice, but like, be authentically you. And I think that certainly early in my career, and I'll shut up in a second, that was one of the struggles. Like, I found my voice was very much an amalgamation of other people's voice, but by doing that enough, you become confident enough in what you're trying to say and who you're trying to be, that you start providing, at least I hope on my better days, I provide a voice and a type of insight and content that is, recognizably me. And that's when you've sort of hit on something good.
Well, if not in the written part, when you tell yourself to shut up on a radio show, that's authentically you, and that's anyone could tell that's Eric Koreen.
Thank you. It is my brand.
Yeah, I think that is great advice. And just to tack on, my advice would be to reach out to people that you follow and in the industry and ask for help, because you'll never know, honestly, if they'll just straight up help you, and that'll just give you a lot of perspective in sort of how things work, but B, obviously, like, people have connections, and that's really how most industries work. And for myself personally, I got to thank both of you, because Blake, you're already at the Score when I was applying to get in the industry. Eric, you didn't even know me at the time at all. I think you might have read one of my pieces at Raptors Republic, said, hey, this one's cool. And then I was like, Eric, please write me a recommendation. And I have actually a sample of it, which he wrote, quote, I cannot vouch for his work ethic, as I do not know him. I do know, however, that William is a talented writer, which obviously there was a lot nicer things. I'm just picking out the most funny part. But no, seriously.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what it's. Yeah, that's what it's like to edit me on deadline.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like, what vintage, like, keeping the score that I've tried to remind myself to put in at the end of a game as like XXX to XXX, like without putting like 122 to 121 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just using the wrong words and not even bothering to edit, to actually give my own work a good solid read. Like, God, that is mortifying. You're welcome, and I'm sorry, Will.
Oh no, listen, I owe my career to those. If you didn't say work ethic twice, I don't know, people really would have known that I would work hard in this industry. All right, so moving on from this portion of the show, we are going to play a segment. So, for people who are longtime listeners to the show, obviously they understand that me and Alex are just really big into poker in an almost embarrassing way for 2021. But listen, man, it's still poker after dark every single time we hit the air here. And I decided to play this game called Raise, Check, or Fold, which we're going to go through a couple of players on the team. And I want to know from both of you, Blake and Eric, if you guys are going to raise, check, and fold. And if you guys haven't played poker, raises means you're going to invest more into this player, in terms of time and investment. Check means you're kind of just like rolling with the status quo, kind of want to see where it goes. But if someone raises on you, maybe you think about folding. And then folding is just that you're done with this and you're looking to cash out some of your chips. So we'll start here, obviously. Pascal Siakam, everyone's favorite person to discuss in the media, because people people love asking us about this. So, Eric, I'll ask you, raise, check, or fold on Pascal Siakam right now?
I think I'm checking.
Okay.
Typical, to bring it back to Raptors reasonableness, just right down the middle, reasonable take. I think obviously the discourse is based a lot on number one option, max guy. And I think that there's very little sense in trying to view him through that lens anymore. What I've seen is a guy who, first of all, in that Knicks game, when he had an awful shooting game, still did a lot to help slow down the Knicks in the battle with Julius Randle. So I thought, that's not always what we talk about when we're talking about his defense, but I think in general, and that night specifically, his defensive production was solid, and it's trending in the right way. And like, as for him on the other end, like, I think he's clearly of the the longer guys, the best handler in transition. He's the guy most likely to be able to find Van Vliet in the corner in transition. He's your guy who you're and this is maybe damning with faint praise, but you're most confident in being able to get off a shot, like a half decent quality shot at the end of the game. And I think like his playmaking, it continues to be to improve. So I don't think he needs a bigger role or anything like that, but I'm happy with where he is considering his offseason, and I think he's right where the Raptors not need him to be, but he's trending in that direction to get there.
I can already tell by the end of this segment, Will's gonna do the KGB breakdown of check, check, check. All you do is check, Eric. All these reasonable checks. I'm checking here as well. I know that 16 games can feel like a lot of new information, especially with how discussed and how up and down Siakam's last couple years have been. But really, this is a card that got turned over that really didn't change the accounting of
Very good.
Your percentage, your hand odds. This is 16 games where he's played, I think, roughly to form in terms of what you'd want first month and change back after a major injury. Like, sure, certainly I would have liked the defense to be more consistent. We've seen the last couple games.
That's been really good of late.
Yeah, and I would go back to the second half of that Memphis win where he was just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been some lows since then too, but you're starting to see what you need to see there. So I think it's mostly been, it's new information, but it's information that hasn't changed the odds of the hand at all. So I'm checking here as well and waiting to see a little more.
Yeah, I think, look, checking is the right way to go on this one. Obviously, if a great trade comes through and sort of knocks your socks off, then of course you got to consider it. But for the most part, you're pretty happy. Well, you're pretty okay with the way things are going right now. There's not a pressing need to do anything specifically. Okay, so Fred VanVleet, Eric, are you raising, checking, or folding here?
So just to clarify, if I'm raising,
Mhm.
does that mean I think he should have a bigger role, or I'm just generally a high on what he's doing?
You're just generally high on what he's doing. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
so
The poker analogy doesn't go that far. I mean, I'm
yeah,
assuming
well, I
he would
just
probably
want to
like
make
you to
sure.
raise his salary, and I think maybe the next time the conversations come around, I think Masai will be having to ask himself if he raised, check, or fold on this
I
one.
believe he'll be extension eligible after in the new accounting year. Isn't that right, Blake?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Anyway,
Wow.
we'll
Convincing
wait and see.
analysis from
We'll
two
wait
of our
and see
leading
on
minds.
that.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm raising on him. I think he's been the best Raptor this year, and it's not particularly close in terms of impacting on the floor. Does that mean he's perfect? No. He still has trouble right around the rim. But I think his instincts and his just awareness of what the team needs from him, especially like even some of those forced shots. You didn't say that, Will, but the aggressiveness and maybe like, why is he taking this shot at this point? Like, you've got this Raptors offense isn't overflowing in half court options, and you've got to do some things to loosen that up, and you've got to make yourself into a threat. And I think he has just been as good as is possible for him, for his skill set, for his minutes load. I think he's a borderline all-star.
So would be extension eligible on the 2-year anniversary of when he last signed that contract. That was November 20th. I don't know how they're going to map those dates, but basically sometime next offseason, he can work out an extension. It could be a little weird because of, if the Raptors are on a cap space team and he wants a bigger raise and there's the player option year and everything like that. But yes, potentially extension eligible. I'm raising here not only because at this point, if you're not continuing to bet on Fred VanVleet, it's just a bad bet in terms of EV.
Yeah.
But also, you look at the list of accomplishments he's had so far in his career, and I think maybe if the Raptors' performance keeps trending upward, he does the one more raise, and I think he has a real all-star case. The Raptors got to win a little bit more, but if you look at VanVleet's resume, what would be the one item that raises his resume a little higher? I think it's an all-star berth, and I think the Raptors got to get a couple games over 500 by mid-January to do that, but I think it's on the table.
Yeah, fair enough. We're in very good hands. I'm definitely always betting on Fred. So just raise in general. This is an auto raise, honestly. This is like if you get like pocket kings, you're just auto raising.
Yeah.
Before the flop, after the flop. Unless something really bad pops up, you're just gonna keep raising and see the final hand, and that's Fred for me right now. OG Anunoby, right now, he has missed a few games, but and really we have no idea when he's coming back. But Eric, if I had to ask you right now, raise, check, or fold on OG Anunoby?
I guess I have to check.
Yeah.
I won't say like wildly encouraged, but I was encouraged by his start to the year. But it's one of those weird things where he hasn't had one injury of concern to where you can say, oh, he's always going to be a concern because of his knee or because of his ankle or whatever. But man, is the bad luck piling up for this guy throughout his career. So, I mean, like everybody else who follows the Raptors, I think he can be one of the best defenders in the league. I think he can be a very good, maybe third option, even up to a second option. I don't think we've seen enough to say that, but I'm bullish on what he does when he's on the floor. I need to see him on the floor more often, and let's just hope he can get back soon.
I'm going to pull a check raise here. I'm going to check, and then if someone else
Oh.
wants to bet against him, I'm going to come back over the top.
Wow, look at you with
my-
your poker strategy.
my-
Where was this when we played? Anyway, keep on.
Wow. I lost to 6-9 offsuit. Come on. Against pocket aces.
That's tough, man.
Don't knock the
tough.
strategy. Knock the misfortune. There's some bad karma, maybe.
Results over process.
Yeah,
that's what we're
exactly.
always saying.
Well, when you only play one table a week, that's all you got is results. There is no process.
Listen, if you
Sample's
want
not large
to
enough.
donate more money, go
Yeah.
ahead, man. I mean, listen, we can set that up anyway.
Yeah. I
So
think I
you're
came
gonna
out-
check raise, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna check raise. I'm gonna slow play it, and if someone else wants to bet against OG because of the injury track record and stuff, I'll come back over the top. I still have a lot of faith in this player, and I think that yes, availability is an ability, as the cliche goes. But also you look at his track record, and it's a lot of random stuff, and I don't know. I think there's too much talent there. I think the contract is unbelievably solid. Yeah, I'm sticking to it. You're not raising on an injured player, so I'm gonna lay in the weeds here and wait for someone else to make a move, and then come back over top.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Blake, I'm with you in that I think it's probably just random bad injury luck. It's just, when does coincidence become a trend? And that's
Yeah.
it's hard to know. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, it's a lot of games though.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I like your idea of check raising, Blake. I'm just gonna keep copying people's answers here. Gary Trent Jr. Eric,
Whew, this is a tough one.
the way he's playing right now.
It's just like I'm probably raising based on what he's done this year. I think he's been like obviously a revelation defensively and offensively. Like I tweeted it this morning. Like from the he's shooting 58% in the mid range if he's
Okay.
straight away or to the left side of the basket, which is just insane. That makes you one of the most dangerous mid-range shooters in the league, and we've all seen the type of shots he's been taking. At the same time, he's on a very tradable contract, and I know you guys had the discussion about Miles Turner last week, and he's definitely an intriguing piece, and I really wish he had a third guaranteed year on that contract, which is definite. And this is the reason for raising. I did not expect I would be saying that this early in the contract.
Yeah, and that was always the kind of the issue with the contract, where it's like, hey, maybe it's not a bad annual value, but that third year being a player option and the kind of escalators and bonus structure of the contract and the backloaded nature is basically that, hey, if this contract ends up being an iffy contract, it's a 3-year contract, and if it ends up being a good one, you have the right to pay him even more in 2 years, and the odds of him becoming a 18 million plus player in these 2 seasons were not zero, but not extremely high. And I personally think the defense has come back down to earth a little bit. I think some of those gambles have gone the wrong way. This is a tough one because I'm certainly not raising. I think this is about the best version of Gary Trent we're going to see. And I don't, within the nature of the game, I don't know if this is a fold or a walk away from the table with your winnings. But yeah, probably not the trade deadline. It's probably just too early. But come the offseason, if there's a deal where a 23-year-old at that time, Gary Trent on a reasonable deal, and hey, that money helps make something else work. Sell high on him. I don't know. It's weird because he's only 22. He's turns 23 next month, and had this been a straight 3-year deal, I would maybe be like, oh yeah, like he's a part of this future core. But the 2+1 makes me think maybe they either weren't sold on it or it's a kind of a value play of like, hey, maybe sometime before the window really opens up, he's a Terrence Ross like piece that helps you get the next piece or something like that. So I'm not answering the raise check fold properly here. I think I'm just getting up from the table and taking a lap a little bit because I'm on a heater and I don't want to, tilt goes both ways. I don't want to go too far the other way with it just yet.
Yeah, like I'm raising on his performance, but I have no idea what that means for his future.
It sounds like we need a fourth option here, which is raising to bluff, which I feel like you guys are both trying to raise to bluff and then end the table right there.
Mm-hmm.
And take
I like that.
I'm just straight up raising on Gary. I don't care what you guys are saying right here. I mean, yes, I do hear some of the concerns. Yes, I did share them in the past. But at the same time, I just continue to see a player that is showing improvement. I think even his passing the other game, obviously with Sacramento, whatever, but even his passing the other game, he was making a couple of pick and roll passes. I think one to Boucher, one to Pascal, on the wing. Like you know what? I want to see how it goes. I really want to see how it goes. I'm not one of those people that are like, he's got a Bradley Beal type of ceiling, which I've seen a couple of times.
Whew.
But, he's talented. I know that's very spicy. That's too spicy for me. Scotty Barnes, we're just going to skip this because obviously we're all going all in on Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes, if you have pocket aces, you're going.
Yeah, check.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Well,
I'm not even going all in. I'm doing the really obnoxious thing of sprinkling my chips around the table.
No, I'm asking.
As I eat my Oreo.
Yeah, I'm asking other people how many chips you have for a chip count. And then I'm going to go all in because I was going to go all in regardless.
I'm making snow angels on the table and getting kicked out of the casino, I suppose.
That's probably what Scotty's going to be doing on a next upcoming episode of Open Gym. All right, so so those are the starters. We're going to go through the bench guys really quickly. I'm going to need one word from you guys on these following players. So Chris Boucher, Eric.
Like one word in general or one of the three words?
One of the three words. Come
on. Fold.
Damn. Well, I mean, yeah. Blake?
Check just a little bit longer and then fold when someone raises. He's getting traded by the deadline, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go fold as well. Precious.
Check.
Check. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'm checking on Precious as well. Sfigi.
It's check folds, very similar to what Blake just expressed for Boucher.
Yeah, but in this case, it's a check fold of, it's not necessarily for a trade. It's once healthy, he's probably the guy with the most tenuous hold on a rotation spot.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm just folding. Utah?
Oh, raise, baby.
Yeah, small raise.
Yeah.
I raise you a black garlic ramen.
Oh, wow, okay. I'll take that. And then Malachi Flynn, finally.
Yeah, check.
That's a check?
Check. Certainly interested in seeing him with a more regular role.
Fair enough. I am going to check as well because you don't have to make a decision just yet on him. You still have control. So that does it for us today. I'm your host, Will Lou, and you've been listening to The Raptor Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Make sure you find The Raptor Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review our show. As a reminder, we are now streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel Monday to Friday between 2 and 3 p.m. And, of course, you can watch the archives episodes on Sportsnet's YouTube channel. Thanks again to Blake and to Eric, and we will talk to you tomorrow.